Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here, hello and welcome. So today we are finally going to be doing a get ready with me while I talk about my birth story. So if you guys are new to my channel, or if you watch and haven't kind of been up to date, I recently had a baby. So my baby is now almost 3 months old, and yeah, a couple of months ago during my pregnancy I did do like a kind of announcement, and I also did a get ready with me talking about kind of how my pregnancy was going. So if you want to check those out, please do, because I kind of go into a slight depth as to all the kind of lead up to obviously pregnancy and everything that I kind of went through to kind of get to the point we're at today. So yeah, I'm just going to do like a casual get ready with me because my birth didn't go as kind of smooth as I hope, as most people hope, to be honest, because when you have a birth plan or when you dream up having your baby, it never goes the complete way that you want it to go, essentially. So I'm just going to kind of do my makeup and kind of talk things through. I'm not going to go into like mass details because there's certain things I probably won't talk about and things like that, but I just want to give like a bit of a statement, like a warning that I am going to talk about obviously birth and fertility issues, and if that does trigger you or if it does kind of affect you in any way, then it's just a bit of a warning, because I know a lot of people need trigger warnings these days, which is completely fair. I'm happy to do that, but obviously the whole point of the video is for me to talk about my journey, and of course people have gone through this journey like every day and everything like that, but this is obviously personal to me, and if anything different, obviously a lot of things would have happened differently to you, and that's your story, this is mine. So I mean, I kind of wanted to just go back slightly in the beginning, of the sense of when I found out I was pregnant. So in February, I found out I was pregnant after kind of trying for 4 years with my husband, and it was kind of a surprise because kind of it's a quick kind of update as to what my previous videos were like. So kind of we struggled and we were told that it would kind of take a while for us to kind of get pregnant and kind of start thinking about going down the IVF route. But then I found out I was pregnant. I think at that point when I found out, I was already like 3 4 weeks, which was crazy because I didn't obviously know until we had our scan and I was looking at, the pregnancy sticks and stuff because I couldn't believe it. And so obviously 9 months later, had a beautiful baby boy. So during my pregnancy, I was having lots of appointments. So as you would normally do anyway, but I was having a lot more kind of scans, midwife appointments, because my BMI was quite high because I'm not skinny girl by any means, and I'm a bit more older in the sense of if you go above like 35, you kind of a higher risk of certain things during pregnancy. So I would always have lots of appointments and lots of scans. So I had so many scans. I was very well, not for the reason of having the scan, but I was really happy to have my scans because that means we got to see the baby more often. And obviously I would always get all my ticks and my flutters, which were just the most amazing feeling. Like I'd be at work talking to a colleague or talking to someone, and I would feel lots of kicks and lots of movements. And if you can hear him in the back, I'm really sorry. I'm trying to like settle him and be quiet at the same time. But yeah, I would always just feel lots of kicks and flowers, and it would be the most amazing feeling. So our second to last scan, they had noticed that he wasn't growing to kind of normal standards. When I say normal standards, I don't mean like normal baby. Like if I use the word normal, I don't mean like that's the way it should be. I mean in the sense of how, what they say, in the sense of the baby should be this size, the baby should be that, they should be weighing this much, etc. So he was technically cast as a tiny baby because my placenta wasn't giving him everything that he needed. Everything else was perfect. It's just his stomach was really small. And during my pregnancy, I was taking aspirin. So aspirin would essentially help with your blood flow, and it would help blood get into the placenta, which meant the baby would grow, at its regular basis. And because my placenta wasn't doing the best job, thanks body, that meant that he wasn't getting, of course, everything that he essentially needed to get. So the second to last scan, this was, I think I was about 35 weeks at the time, or maybe 34 weeks, something like that. Because again, I was having regular scans. And so they had said, oh, at the next scan, if we don't see that there's any progression in size, we will induce you early, just to kind of benefit the baby obviously a lot more, because they're not benefiting from being in your stomach, in your womb, however you want to put it. So I was just like, okay, no problem. So I just did what I normally did, which is, try and eat as much as I can, just rest, even though I was still working. So I couldn't rest that much, but even on my days off, I was trying my best to relax and just looking after myself, going for walks and um, trying to self-care. And then when we had gotten to the last scan, they had actually said there's been really no progression and we want to induce you next week. So I had gone to my scan, which was, I believe, 37 weeks. And so at that point, they said he's only put on a little bit of weight and we want you to be induced next week. So this was me kind of in panic mode, because I had already started my maternity leave, which was great because I saved up a chunk of holiday and then started my maternity leave essentially a couple of weeks before I was due. Because if you are aware of maternity leave in like anywhere, you do not get a lot of pay, you don't get a lot of time essentially in that sense. So I wanted to kind of get as much as I can. So I was preparing to be induced. So the induced date was the 2nd of September. So they didn't give me a time. They said, okay, on that morning, we will call you and we will give you a time to come to be induced. So that didn't mean I would have the baby then, because at that time I was planning to have your standard vaginal birth. When I kind of refrained from saying normal, because, essentially when people think you're giving birth, the vaginal birth is the main thing that people kind of think as like your standard birth. But of course, there's different ways that you can, well, there's two ways that you can give birth. So essentially, I had said to them, I would prefer to have your quote unquote natural birth, but if, circumstances came where baby had to come out by a cesarean, I'm very happy to accept that as well. Of course, I didn't know what I was getting myself into because I had never um, had a baby before. So, my options were very open, and I've seen lots of videos online where people saying they've actually preferred to have a cesarean. I don't know why, but fair enough. And so on that morning, I was waiting, because me and my husband had stayed at my parents' that night because they actually live closer to the hospital than where I actually live. So all day I was waiting for a phone call, getting nervous and going, it's not going to happen today. They're not going to call me. And of course, the impatient me called them around, because they said, oh, you probably get a call around 9 o'clock just to kind of give you a ballpark time as to what time to come. And so when I was waiting, I had to keep on making sure that my phone had signal. So I kept on saying to my husband, can you call my number just to make sure that my phone has signal? And of course, my phone did have signal. They just obviously weren't calling me. So I think it was about 12 o'clock. I called them and I said, look, I don't want to seem impatient. I don't want to seem ungrateful, but I'm supposed to be induced today and it's already 12 o'clock. And they said I would get a call around 9 and I've not received anything. And they said, okay, we'll get back to you. Hold on, and we'll try and figure out what's going on. So they called me about half an hour later saying, can you come in at 4 o'clock? And so I was like, yes, perfect, because I have a time, because my sister, who wasn't with me at the time, she was one of my birthing partners as well as my husband. So I let her know. And then we got there about 4 o'clock. And again, it's not too far from where my parents live. So we literally got all my stuff, because I literally took everything, like the car seat, the clothes, my bag, this and that, without realizing what was going to happen. And so everything we took with us. And so, yeah, got to our room at 4 o'clock and then my sister turned up. So that was when they kind of explained everything, saying, this is the way that you're going to be induced. So the way that they were going to do it, the way that they did start it off was a gel that would kind of kickstart contractions and kickstart your water being broke. And so I did that. That was one of the weirdest feelings. Like, I know it's kind of similar when you have like a smear test, but this was like a gel, and then you kind of sit there for a little bit waiting for something to happen. And then my contractions did start. Like, there was a small amount of like going, and it was weird because during my pregnancy I had a lot of Braxton Hicks, so those are fake contractions. So those are how your stomach kind of twitches and moves about, and that's kind of preparing your body for birth in the sense of knowing what contractions are like. So I was getting quite a few of those, which were quite painful, not painful, but just kind of like uncomfortable and weird. And so they offered me gas and air, and I was like, okay, let's try it, because so many people were like, try gas and air, try this and that. And I did try it for a little bit and it wasn't really working. Like, I didn't feel anything, which is quite weird, because every time I say that to people, they would say, oh, I was, like off my tits or kind of like having weird, because if you take too much of it, it can make you high, or it can give you like side effects or whatever. But I didn't take that much. I mean, you're only supposed to take it when you have a contraction. And because mine were quite intense, I was taking it quite a lot, but it wasn't really kind of numbing the pain per se. And so because at the time, like, it wasn't that far into it, but I was only 2 centimeters dilated. So for them, that wasn't a mass amount. So they had said, okay, if in this amount of time we're going to give you more gel, if it doesn't work, you're going to have a cesarean. And I was like, okay, because at the time, baby was getting a little bit unsettled, and he was kind of not he was coming a bit distressed, and obviously they don't want that to happen, and so everything was moving quite quickly. So when the doctor tested how far I was, oh my god, that was probably one of the worst pains I've ever experienced. It was like intense pain, and I'm like, okay, this is what this feels like. Imagine what it's going to be like when I give birth. And so there, at the time, I was still only like 2 centimeters, and they could tell baby was coming distressed and he wasn't very happy. So they said to me, oh, do you want to have an epidural? We really recommend that you kind of go for it. I said, okay. I mean, I had no like, I wasn't against having an epidural. It was just one of the weirdest feelings, because it's difficult how to describe it without showing it, but I'm not going to show you the position I was in, because it was quite weird. If I can find a picture of how people sit, then I'll definitely go for it. But I had to sign a form. I had to like have this really long conversation with the physician who gives the epidurals, because they're quite intense, and obviously it's in your spine, so you have to be so careful when you can't move. So the position I was sitting in, my husband was like standing onto the side of me, and my sister was in front of me, and I had to like cross my arms onto my legs and bend down and things like that. And of course, my belly is I still have my baby inside of me, so wasn't the most comfortable. And obviously, when the needle goes in, it is one of the like sharp, like the craziest pains that you can ever think of. And it was a lot. It kind of kicked in quite quickly, but as soon as I had it done and it was starting to kick in, the doctors came in and said, we want you to have a cesarean. And so I was kind of like, okay, like, I wasn't opposed to it. It wasn't what I essentially wanted, but I knew that it would be the most beneficial, the most beneficial for my baby. And so at this point, it was about 11:30, I believe it was. And so they had said, okay, we're going to take you to go and have a cesarean because baby's becoming distressed, and we feel like it's just easier that he just comes out. And so I said, okay. And I don't remember if I signed a form. I don't think you do. I think it's just for the epidural. And so my husband had to put on some scrubs. My sister couldn't go in with me, unfortunately, because you're only allowed one person in there. And they topped up my epidural, so I was essentially numb from, I think it's from my chest downwards, and it was one of the weirdest feelings because I was just out of it, and everything was kind of done in like half an hour, 45 minutes. It was one of the quickest procedures. Like, I've never had like a surgical procedure before, thank God. But it was one of the quickest, most efficient things. Everyone that worked there was on their game. They were on it, and it was kind of like me just laying there like my arms out and talking to my husband and him reassuring me that everything was fine and baby was fine and we're getting things done quickly. And um, yes, I was just laying there and my ears popped, and I found that really weird because I was talking to my husband. He's like, "How you feeling? How you doing?" This is what everything was going on because they have this massive sheet, obviously in front of you, and then obviously while they're going at it, I don't feel a thing, thank God, because if I did, I would not have been happy. Obviously, you don't want to feel these things because it's pain on your body. Um, but yeah, I was essentially just laying there talking to my husband, and then all of a sudden, I hear baby crying. See them holding him in the air, which is one of the weirdest things. Especially, I was just off my face because literally the drugs were so strong. I kept on like just rambling shit to my husband. I just kept on saying random stuff, and he's like, "It's okay, you'll be fine. You know, baby's not going to be here soon. Don't worry about it. I'm here." Blah blah blah. And then obviously when baby's born, they show him, and I get really emotional, of course, because it's such a overwhelming situation where everything has happened so quickly that my baby is just here after years of dreaming about it and months of like mentally trying to prepare myself and all of this. So then they kind of clean him up. They let my husband kind of cut the cord and everything. And then they bring him over to me and they put him on my chest, and he is quiet. Like he is really, really silent. And I'm kind of staring at him and he's just staring at me. And I keep on saying to my husband, like, he's going to fall off. He's going to fall off me because like, he's going to roll off. And he's like, no, he's not going anywhere. He's fine. Just relax. Look at him. Just talk to him. And I'm kind of looking at him and he's looking at me. And it is one of the weirdest, most beautiful things I've ever experienced in my life because it's just so strange because again I've always dreamt of being a mum and I always felt like it wasn't going to happen, and the moment that he was there it was like an out of body experience. And so yeah, he's laying there and they're just kind of their doctors are doing their thing, and so they weigh him and you know they do what they have to do, which is absolutely fine, and they say he's totally fine, he's perfect, blah blah blah. And so after I get stitched up, because I think that takes the longest. Again, because I'm so out of it, I have no concept of time. I have no idea what time it is, where I am, what's happening. And so when that all gets sorted, I then am transferred to one room, which I think is called like the recovery room, where I'm the only person in there, which I found a bit strange because I thought it would be busy, like people having babies and stuff. I think when I was getting moved, more people were turning up. So I was there and my husband was there, and my sister did turn up because they let her come in for a few minutes. And because she couldn't really stay, she had just gone to my mum's for the rest of the day, and she said, "Oh, I'll come by tomorrow." And she'd got to briefly see the baby because he was there with the doctor. I was holding him, one of those things. But yeah, that's when they kind of put him on my chest and they told me to start kind of breastfeeding him. And I was like, I don't know what to do. And so the midwife, who was so nice, all the midwives that I dealt with was so nice. Everyone was so great. And so she's kind of like, do this, do that, you know, get him closer, this and that. And I'm still out of it. Like I'm still just kind of blurry and I don't know what the hell is going on. And so me and my husband just relaxing, sitting there. His baby's just being baby, having his milk and, you know, just kind of figuring out what the hell is going on, where the hell am I? And then I get transported to a ward. So I'm there for like half a day while I'm trying to recover. And of course, at this time, the midwife is like, do you want to stand up? Do you want to go for a walk? And I was like, I've just been cut open like a couple of hours ago. And you want me to go for a walk? But I guess they want people to just start getting their body moving because it's so important that you're not like I had the socks on to kind of get my blood flow going because obviously I'd be bedbound for a little bit. But no, straight away I kind of got up, I did one step, and then she's like, "Do you want to do some more steps?" I was like, "Okay." And so I kind of walked back and forth a few times and then sat down and uh, kind of they were doing their checks for the baby, and then I've got transferred to another ward, which was where I would be essentially for a week because obviously recovery Baby had a few kind of like hiccups in the sense of his glucose levels was going down, so he ended up staying in the hospital a week longer than I did. So essentially we were around there for 2 weeks, which was obviously not ideal or not what we intended to happen, of course, but you know, it just happened. Like, you know, he was okay. They just had to monitor him, so he had to go into a special baby unit, which was one of the worst things I could ever imagine, because every 3 hours they had to take his blood. Sorry about that. He keeps on freaking out, but he's right next to me anyway. Um, but yeah, they had to keep on taking his blood and milk and glucose levels and all that stuff, and having to leave him almost every night. I just broke down because I was like, I want to be with him all the time. I just couldn't imagine him. He wasn't by himself. He was obviously with nurses. They were looking after him. They were amazing. Like the special baby units, the women that work, the nurses and stuff, because they're not just women, so apologies. The nurses that work there are some of the nicest, kindest people that we've ever met, and they were so nice and reassuring, and just kept on saying, please go, like, please go home, relax, recover your body. Baby's here. If we need anything, we'll give you a call. Because when I was still induced, so when I was still in the hospital, the ward was literally like 2 minutes away, but I just didn't want to leave him. It was that feeling of him knowing that he needed me, even though he didn't really know what was going on, because he was obviously a newborn baby. But then after a week, so this is essentially now 2 weeks of us being in the hospital, we were sent home. So that was essentially everything in a nutshell that had happened. And it was obviously didn't want to be there for 2 weeks, but that's just how it goes. And I mean, some people are there for much longer, because obviously there's a lot more things that happen with babies, and nothing is ever like ABC. Like, again, my birth, I honestly felt like I would just have your standard vaginal birth. Everything would be fine. I didn't need to be induced. I was waiting for my waters to break and at home all the time, because I didn't want anything to happen when I was outside. But of course, I was fine. I was looking after myself. I'm just going to do my lips off camera and then I'll be back. I thought I would show you him on camera very quickly. This is not really something that I would do on a regular basis. Well, I'm not going to probably do this afterwards, but I thought it would seem fitting that I would introduce you guys to my little boy. So this is Elijah. He is just the most perfect little boy. I don't even know how to describe how much he's just changed my life in the most amazing way. And being a mum is very strange, having to get up at 3 in the morning, changing nappies, doing milk. Yeah, he's just amazing, and I couldn't have asked for a more amazing baby. And I thought I would just hold him for a minute just to settle him, but of course finish the video because I didn't want to just leave it lingering. But yeah, that was essentially like what happened during my birth, the baby's birth. I keep on saying my birth, but I guess it was everything. Um, yeah, it was a very whirlwind situation. I mean, I've told this story so many times to people, and every time it just seems more and more like real. And even, you know, when I hold him and when I talk to him, and I see tons of smiles every morning, like literally I'm awoken with smiles and just the most beautiful feeling. It just makes me so happy, and I feel like I have a kind of purpose in my life to just be his mom. And I've always tried to figure out what my career path is, and I've never really found a career path. And I'm not saying I'm never going to work again, because that just sounds so stupid. Like, I do want a job, and I want to, like, you know, live my normal life, you know, when he's a bit older and goes to nursery and school and everything. Like, he's agreeing with me. Um, but yeah, mum's job is insane. Yes, my baby. A mum's job is insane. Like, you have to be with them. Like, you don't have to be with them 24/7, but like, I feel like I need to be with him 24/7, because it's just my nature of being caring and, you know, just wanting to mother him, of course. He's laughing away. But yeah, that was essentially my video. If you did have any other questions, please let me know in the comments, because I will be happy to answer them. And thank you so much for watching. I hope you have enjoyed this type of video. I might can do more stories if there's anything you want me to talk about. Please don't forget to like and subscribe because I film and upload every time I get a chance to, every time he lets me. Don't forget to follow me on any of my social medias because I'm always active on there, and I appreciate you sitting down and listening to me ramble on. And bye, Elijah. Say bye. Bye. Bye, guys.